So you came to India from UK, right? So how was the transition from UK hip hop music, which you were into, to the Indian music scene you were getting into?
The kind of transition from the UK scene to the Indian scene is interesting. So I've been coming to India obviously all my life. My mum's from Himachal, my dad's from Punjab. So my grandparents, my dad's grandparents were always here. So I used to come every summer. But up until the age of like 16, 17, I'd never really come without my parents. So my view of India was what my parents' view of India was. But then in 2003, me and my brother set up an IT company out here. So I started coming out here alone and then kind of meeting new people. So it kind of opened my eyes a bit. The scene in the UK, it's not too different if you look at it from a bird's eye view to what's happening in India. Obviously, like, there's pros and cons to both scenes. So let me give you an example. In the UK, isn't as many as there was, but there's still a lot of live-only venues. So, for example, they're not restaurants or bars that turn into clubs. They only open for live shows and then they close, basically. So that's a positive for the UK side. But, for example, in the India side, there's a lot of brand work. Do you know what I mean? In the UK, and the independent scene in India gets a lot of brand commissions. But in the UK, that very rarely happens. You won't get, Budweiser or another alcohol brand or someone or, anyone from that instance kind of engaging with the independent scene in the UK. It's happening now, obviously, more with kind of grime and stuff. But when I was growing up and in a band, that it was impossible. It's just never happening.
Talking about independence, right? With the perspective of a label, right? Who, according to you, is an independent artist?
See, the lines of an independent artist get blurred a lot because how record deals and how the industry was structured before has changed a lot. So, for example, you could be an independent artist and have a distribution deal or a publishing deal, for example. You're still independent because you don't have a label and you're funding yourself, but in that sense, you have support, which necessarily, if you were independent 15 years ago, you would have been doing everything DIY. Your distribution, if you were doing obviously physical sales, then you wouldn't necessarily have access to distribution like we have now. I think for me, the definition of a kind of independent artist now is about the grind. Do you know what I mean? How much that artist is kind of doing themselves DIY to kind of get out there. And that obviously involves now social media, it involves booking your own shows, it involves doing your own merch. Do you know what I mean? So I think from traditionally what an independent artist was and what an independent artist is now is very different. So I still consider Brub an independent artist. Even though he's signed to a label, a lot of what he does is DIY. He still makes his own music, invests in his own music, they do their own videos. So, some people argue, oh, no, he's not independent, or, see them aren't independent because they're signed to Azadi, but in whole essence, they still are. The whole structure is still very independent.
Right, so in a scenario where you're starting to rap, you want to get into rap, and you're a 16-year-old kid who wants to get into rap, how does that start, according to you, from the label, from the manager's perspective?
Yeah. I think that format is pretty set, man. Like every kid, whoever gets attracted to hip hop, they start writing other person's lyrics. Do you know what I mean? We've all done it. We're all rap fans, and we've all written Eminem or Method Man or 50 Cent or Tupac, and we've rapped them and rehearsed them. And it's a natural progression to go, cool, I can write my own lyrics. And and you start doing those one-bar rhymes. I think it's all about making and trying and failing. Everything about progression is trying and failing. Very few people, make amazing music the first time round. It doesn't matter who you kind of are, but the more music you make and come back to it, you learn new things and you recognize new things. And do you know what I mean? The only example or one of the examples that I can give of this is someone that I've seen just massively progress from the first time is TNS. So 2015-16, when I first heard him, he was an exact copy of Eminem. Do you know what I mean? There was obviously a massive Eminem influence, but that didn't necessarily deter me just because of his drive. The guy was making songs every day. Like, he's got a book with 500 songs written in it, you know, and he will open up a book and he'll be like, what am I going to record today? Do you know what I mean? And that's how he's just got better. Do you know what I mean? Like, I take this example of David Beckham. David Beckham wasn't a gifted footballer. He just practiced fucking hard every fucking day, how to bend a ball. Do you know what I mean? That's what he became known for. You know, so in the same way, if you're starting up as an MC or you want to get into rap, just make a song every day. You're going to make shit songs. You know what I mean? But nobody has to listen to them. Do you know what I mean? Just make songs every freaking day. If you're a producer, make beats every day. If you want to be a guitarist, play guitar every fucking day. Like, you know, that's how you get good at something, man.
When's the moment you realize, like, cool, it's not a hobby anymore?
when I put loads of money in it. No. So look, man, I was in a hip-hop group when I was 15, 16, so 1998, 1999, and I was at college, and, you know, same thing, I used to love fucking Tupac, I used to love Biggie, Wu-Tang, like, that was my shit, Buster, Missy Elliott, like, you know, we're talking late 90s. My brother was a big muso, he's a DJ, so I used to listen to loads of stuff, like he had Public Enemy on vinyl and Busta Rhymes on vinyl, and do you know what I mean? So I was pretty fortunate like that because I just got access to loads of stuff that I necessarily wouldn't have heard. You know, I grew up in a really poor white neighborhood, and poor white people didn't listen to hip hop. Do you know what I mean? And then, you know, you get to a stage where you got to make a decision, like, you know, am I going to continue with music or am I going to try and pay some bills? You know, so when I was 19, me and my brother started an IT company, and I kind of left. We had to kind of leave the band. I moved out of where I was born, moved up to London. But then a lot of my friends were still in the music circle. Like, I was fortunate to grow up with some really talented people who just are still really good, well-known musicians. So I was always kind of in that circle, and like, I feel that I have a knack for. Look, I'm not a musician. I can't play anything to save my life, but I get an idea of what I feel sounds right or what should kind of come. And then, again, I've been fortunate enough from the age of 15 to fucking 37 to spend a decent amount of time with producers, with filmmakers, with venues, with tour managers, you know, with designers, to kind of understand all the aspects that are involved, do you know what I mean? And a manager doesn't have to be amazing at something. He needs to have a good, decent knowledge of all the fragments that come together to make an artist. Do you know what I mean? You know, at the end of the day, man, I just see that to get things done right, you've got to have attention to detail, and to have that, you've got to understand that, okay, we're doing this shot, for example, like this shot we're doing now. Do you know what I mean? Having done 50 of these interviews before, I'd know that that's a 25 to 30 wide kind of shot angle, and this is what the aperture needs to be and the ISO needs to be. So if I'm at a shoot and somebody's doing something wrong, I can have a look at it and go, that's wrong. Do you know what I mean? In the same way, like, because I was in a band and I've done sound checks. Now I'm a manager, and bringing up artists that have never really played on massive stages and may feel a little bit nervous about that sense. You know, just giving them little tips about mic technique and in-ears and positioning and presentation. Do you know what I mean? It's because I've made those mistakes, you know? So that's why I kind of feel, I feel I'm good at it. You know, I feel that I've got enough all-round kind of knowledge of different aspects to be able to guide somebody in the right way. Do you know what I mean? And stop them from making some mistakes. Like, everybody's got to make mistakes because you don't learn. But, you know, if somebody can go, look, try do this, you know, it might help a little bit, you know, and then that's it, man. Like, and, you know, for me, like, you know, I've been really poor and I've had money, and then I've been really poor again and I've had money. You know, it's so for me, the whole rat race of making money doesn't. I love money. Don't get me wrong. I fucking love it, but it doesn't drive me. You know, like, but influencing a generation, or being a catalyst, or being a part of influencing a generation and leaving something that in 30 years' time, somebody's still going to listen to and find fucking Prabdeep for the first time and listen to classic and go, yo, fucking sick. Like, who put this out? Oh, Azadi Records. Oh, cool. I'm going to look at Azadi Records and just see this freaking catalogue. You know, that's the driving factor. You know what I mean? It's the legacy that you leave behind.